Krishna, thank you for doing this, man. Just to introduce you, Krishna Rajagopal, founder, chief executive, AKATI Security. You are a global cybersecurity firm, Malaysia founded, of course, but you do business all over the world, Middle East, North America, South America, Africa, Asia, of course. In fact, we're quite happy. In fact, we're quite privileged to have you in Malaysia right now because you are a jet setter. Tomorrow, I think this weekend you fly off to Geneva,
Yep.
and you're constantly traveling. So thank you for doing this. I think Krishna, we met under circumstances that really focused the market on the dangers of AI, quantum computing. We live in an era where crimes are in the cyber space, right? And no longer are they stealing from branches or cash heists and all that. They're coming in through the systems. So I think what we're going to try and talk about today is the extent of the risk that we are now facing in the cyber world from hackers and scammers and all these kind of things. Maybe we can start off by you just giving us a general viewpoint of the lay of the land. How advanced and sophisticated are they now?
Sure. Cool. So thank you so much for having me here. I think the current situation is they're moving so fast. To put into perspective, right? Ever since ChatGPT came along the way, uh, till now, there's a 4,000% increase in phishing. Right, not 400, right? And I think the real number is around 4,151%. And that's crazy. Plus, in the early days of all the generative AI, ChatGPT and stuff, hackers were trying to use it to do stuff that was malicious. And then obviously these companies started putting in the guardrails. So that when you ask ChatGPT to write me a virus, it probably will say I'm not allowed to do so. But then the underground economy has spun up things like a fraud GPT, worm GPT. These are special purpose LLMs just to serve the criminal underground market. So that's the current situation. The idea is that the criminals are actually using AI to its fullest extent. Um, However, if the question is, is there going to be a sentient AI being that is going to be, sitting there and is going to start hacking every systems? We are not there yet. But what we have today is criminals utilizing AI to hack, to do fraud, to break into systems at a much faster, more realistic scale.
So I think the current situation is that a lot of the crimes have actually been contributed to by account holders, and I want to focus the discussion today on individuals, like Krishna, because
Yes.
obviously the audience are individuals. So, for example, if you are like a stock exchange or a broking house, right? And you have hackers come in to perform fraudulent transactions on behalf of existing account holders. But maybe those account holders were the ones who were quite lax with their passwords, or so there's an element of negligence or contributory negligence in there, right?
Yes.
Um, okay, first of all, how prevalent are those? And I think secondly, the most important question is, can hackers come in even without the customer, the account holder being negligent?
Good question. So I think the first angle is that unfortunately a lot of account holders are negligent because we're still thinking that um, the situation is as it is in the past, right? Situations have changed, right? With criminals using AI to target individual account holders, right? And we'll talk a little bit about how they do that later. But the second thing is, I think the environment, we're sitting at a crossroad where AI itself is advancing at a very rapid stage, right? So we have got the human in the loop, on the loop, out of the loop, right? We're in the stage of human in the loop, right? For most of these attacks. So if I was a criminal and I'm targeting account holders, right? I have AI. I will need to give it some instructions for it to do stuff. But then we are moving towards something semi-autonomous, right? Human on the loop. So there are techniques and tools out there where criminals could just use um, AI tools, and they just, just monitor. It just literally scrapes your credentials from social media, creates realistic phishing emails, hyper realistic phishing emails, targets you automatically, tricks you to click it. You then click on it, and then starts to spread what we call as a keylogger into your systems, pull out credentials, and give me a report. Almost automatic. Right. And as an criminal, I just need to press the panic button if something goes wrong. That's it. Right. So we're at that stage now. So as users, sometimes we still think it's that old cyber hacker criminal, who's just looking at my Facebook, trying to understand about me, and then, opening his Outlook, crafting an email, sending one email at a time. Those times have passed. So right now it's at speed of scale, and literally it's almost automatic. And that's where we find a lot of victims on people losing their stockbroking accounts, on their banking accounts today, because these criminals are doing it semi-automatic.
How are they profiling victims, Krishna? On what basis?
So it's literally stuff that is available on the internet. So your LinkedIn profile, your social media profile. So when you type in, let's say, Kusu Chuang, right, it's going to do a query on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram. It's going to pull out your public picture, right? Is going to see any videos, public posts that you have, and it'll profile your voice. So it can now do a deep fake, or it can beat any banking voice biometric system. If it's not, sophisticated enough, it can beat it and pretend to be you. And then it'll understand your profile and says, okay, you like to talk about finance, you're in Malaysia. So then these are the attack strategies for this person, right? It tells the criminal, these are the kind of campaigns that you would probably write if you want him to open that email. And then you will say, okay, proceed. You will start crafting option 1, phishing email, option 2, 3. Which one would you like? Option 2, go ahead, it'll send. So it's literally automatic.
Good God. Goodness gracious, man. Where are you seeing the most work right now, Krishna? Are you mainly in Malaysia, or where are the most cases prevalent?
For us, it's spread all over. There isn't any specific country that stands out. Although a lot of our work is out of Malaysia, we see a lot of activities all over the place. However, in countries that are more digitally savvy, APEC in general is quite digitally savvy. There is an uptick or an uprise in cases, unfortunately.
Okay, so I want to focus on things like personal data, share trading accounts, bank accounts. Then you've got certain service providers who give you financial products. So whether it's Touch and Go or
Yes.
Big Pay or Wise, or because everything's all digital now, right? It's all electronic cash, right? And people have got balances on those accounts, right? How susceptible are those providers to the hackers?
Well, they're all not on the same level, because some of them are leaders in the market. They realize this is a problem, and they started putting in, AI controls, right? Controls to detect criminals using AI. However, there are also a lot of financial institutions that are still struggling to catch up to this. Um, I'll give you an idea of how different crime is, and also fraud control is without AI and with AI, right? So, if I may, um, traditionally, let's say if I'm a financial institution and I'm detecting fraud on credit card, right? Um, and let's say I'm a user and I use, let's say, 50 ringgit or 100 ringgit at a time in a restaurant. Usually, I would swipe my card on Monday to Friday, and I would usually swipe it in KL, for example, right? Now it's very easy. And so years of fraud detection systems basically detect this. They hard code this. Anything out of this is considered suspicious. So if someone suddenly swipes um, in let's just say a casino, right? Suspicious, right? So they've baselined it. Now, this is where AI comes in, because if a fraudster starts to use AI, and let's just say he just wants to drain, let's say, $5,000 from your account, the system automatically knows that's your pattern. Now, he keeps on doing 50 ringgit here, 80 ringgit here, in another restaurant, another restaurant, all in KL during weekdays, and cumulatively drain that 5,000 baht. And the worst part is, if the bank is using AI to detect, it won't spot the difference. Traditionally, if a human would look at this and go like, why so many restaurants in a week, right? How many times do you want to eat in a week? We'll spot a difference. But if they're using AI, the AI can't tell the difference. There was a real research done where what they did was they took a picture of a panda, right? Added a little bit of noise, white noise inside the panda, gave it to the AI, and the AI detected it as a gibbon. Because the AI looks at it as zeros and ones, right? So this is where it's an arms race between the criminal using AI and the good guys, the financial institutions, also using AI to detect. But as a user, we have to be careful because we're stuck in the middle.
Good God. Okay. So what I mean, so what can we do? What can we do to address all this? I mean, how can we do? How can us individuals, because we know nothing about how to deal with this, and these are basically bionic creatures, right? These hackers, they know all this software. They're so clever at it, right? How to combat this thing?
Well, there's a lot of things to do. Now, obviously, we'll focus more on the end user, assuming, I'm the end user. I do a little bit of banking, a little bit of trading, for example, maybe a bit of, if there is any crypto, right? Um, I think I'll probably summarize it into maybe like 5 key things, right? Um, First thing is if you do a lot of banking and trading, I would highly recommend to get a hardware token, right? It's one of those things like this, right? This, for example, is a YubiKey, but there are a lot of other brands, right? There's UB, there's Titan, there's so many other brands, right? Hardware tokens to secure your passkeys, your multi-factor authentication, and stuff like that. So that's the first thing, right? If possible, use a hardware shield, right? If you do a lot of banking and trading, that's highly recommended. Number two, if you do a bit of and if you do crypto, right, consider using a hardware wallet.
Sorry. What is so hardware token is for, like, how do those things work?
Good question. So typically, nowadays when I log into systems, right, I have got a username, I've got a password, and there's something called a multi-factor authentication. Sometimes it's a 6 digit that pops up. People tend to use phone calls, SMS, mobile apps on their phone, right? You would see that 6 digit, and then you would put it into the website. Now, phone calls and SMS. No, 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 no. Don't ever use it. Don't even let your worst enemy use it, right? Because it is not secure. It's very easy to hijack that. So the only option we have is really between a mobile app. So we call it a soft token, or actual hardware like this, which is called a hard token. It's very similar to banking as well. If you notice those days, some of the business banking users might recognize this. You would have one of those, like, I have one here. Something like this, right? You would have one of those keypads where you press some numbers, 6 digits will pop up, right? Now, this is considered a hardware token, right? And then nowadays, a lot of banks are moving into, within the mobile application itself, right? You press something and then you'll get a 6 digit. That's a soft token. So soft tokens in general are okay for an average user, but if you are heavy into large ticket investments, trading, a lot of crypto, a lot of business banking and online banking, I would highly recommend this. This is about $10 to $15, not really expensive. And there are other brands here in Malaysia that are cheaper. So as long as something like this, the only reason for this is phishing resistant. This doesn't depend on anything that is in your computer today or your phone. So if your computer or phone gets infected with a malware, right, this is resistant to that, because this literally requires you to physically be there, plug it in, and literally put your finger on the gold disk. Right. So it requires that physical presence. So that cuts the chain of the attack. So that's why I would recommend that.
How does the hacker intercept the the 6-digit code that comes to your SMS? Because you say don't do that, right? How is that process compromised by hackers?
So there's a lot of techniques today, and one of the most common is something called a SIM swap or a SIM clone, right? So they basically clone your SIM card, right? And literally whatever comes to you goes to them, right? That's one option. Another more prevalent technique in Malaysia is where they would, let's just say I want to compromise your phone and read all your SMSs. Then I would try to get myself into your phone by making you click on a dubious application, right? Pretending to be a TV streaming app or something, right? There's so many campaigns. And once you install it, right? Part of that process when you install the application is going to ask you for some permissions. Do you want to allow? And most of us don't read it. So we'll just say allow. Otherwise the app won't run, right? And when you do that, one of the permission is for it to read all your SMSs. And then it sits there, right? The next time you do online banking and you do get an SMS to your phone, that SMS gets, or any two-factor, that gets sent to the criminal automatically, like a carbon copy. So that's very popular in Malaysia, that technique.
But what if you are the one who initiated the transaction? So it's not him, it's you.
Yes.
So what's the point of him getting the PIN number?
So for most of them, it involves around a lot of reconnaissance. So initially, what they do is they just sit and watch. They see when you do your transactions, how do you do it, what's the workflow around it, right? They understand the pattern.
Do they watch you?
So very good question. A lot of times, remember that dubious application that I said, right? When they install that, it's in cybersecurity, we have a term called RAT, right? So it's literally called remote access Trojan. So it's sort of like a spy app on your phone, right? It allows them to, if it's on the phone, it's on the phone. If it's on the computer, literally they can even activate your webcam and your microphone and sit there and watch what you're doing. They can see your screen, they can see what you're doing, and they just sit there quietly. They're just watching what you're doing. They don't do anything. So there's no telltale signs on the computer that something is funny or out of the ordinary, right? And then they just watch. And when the time is right, they understand the workflow and they see a weakness in your process. That's when they go for the kill. Usually in the middle of the night, while you're sleeping, and when you wake up, your bank account is empty.
Holy crap, man.
There's a lot of people who are falling victims to this, even in Malaysia. And unfortunately, it's a lot of retired people where their entire retirement savings has just vanished overnight.
Even your balance on some provider can go.
Just like that. Yeah.
How do they? No, because when you talk to the bankers and the providers, right, they say they've got this layer, that layer, this layer, that layer. There's an approval mechanism. There's a checking and all these things, right? How can imbalances go to zero?
That's true. Good question, though. In fact, there were some of those cases that we saw, and we were wondering the same thing, because some of those happened. Typically, a bank has got a 12-hour cooling off period, right? Whenever you make a change on, let's say, on your banking, we change a phone number or a limit, right? If you increase the limit, there is that 12-hour cooling off period. But some of those transactions we see happen before the 12 hours is out, which indicates that this could be, something else, or maybe there's a control mechanism that's failing. In general, I would say the banks are doing their best to put in controls. To give you an idea, a lot of banks were using SMS as their de facto standard to send the 6 digits to your online banking. Then those crimes started going up in Malaysia. So some of the banks started moving, right? They no longer use SMS to send your, 6 digit. They use it in the app itself, right? So that's a good sign of moving and adding layers of control. So the banks are doing it. They are adding it. However, right? If I'm the good guy, I have to secure all the 10 doors. But if I'm the bad guy, I only need one small slip in one of the entry points to get in. So that's the arms race that we're in today.
So you mentioned you had 5 things to recommend to people, right? The first thing
yes.
was the hardware token. The second
token.
one was I can't remember. So where are we on that list?
Okay, so we get to the second one. So the second thing is, in today's world, you have to use AI to protect yourself from threats created by AI, right? So if you want to save yourself, make sure that your tools that you use to protect yourself, right, has AI. For example, your antivirus, make sure it has AI. The old way of detecting viruses are no longer um, enough, right? Because criminals are using AI to spread malware on your system. So you need an AI enabled EDR or antivirus on your computer. Plus, there are some tools. So, for example, if you're into things like, there are tools out there. I mean, I'm not endorsing any brand. I'm just giving examples, right? There are tools out there like, Identity Guard, LifeLog. It monitors your identity and it sees if someone has created something similar, right, and alerts you. So those kind of tools are good. Again, they all use AI. For example, if you're heavy into trading and you do a lot of market analysis and you look for news before you make that decision to buy, there are tools like Benzinga, right? These are not expensive. I'm not talking about enterprise level tools. I'm talking about basic stuff that we could just, doesn't cost a lot of money to buy. Those use AI to detect manipulation in sentiment. So, for example, if everyone is saying, buy this, this is the latest thing, buy. They could be criminals using AI for a disinformation campaign to make people buy. So Benzinga will pick that up. Have some kind of AI tools around you. I would say have an AI guardian, right? Your antivirus, the tools that you depend on for information, for trading, for crypto. There are things like there are some wallet security scanners out there. There are chain analysis tools out there that you can use to protect. So basically, use AI to protect yourself against AI. That's my number two, right? Um, and I would say number three would be you want to secure yourself on your digital presence, right? You want to call it be a digital ghost. Don't leave traces around. Just like I said, people can the tools automatically crawl you and then they can create deepfake videos with your voice, right? So to prevent that, right? Uh, few things. Number one, do a social media audit. Check your LinkedIn, check your stuff, and see, did I just release too much of personal information, right? So, and it's different from everyone, right? Case to case. So do it. I would say simple thing, do an audit, right? Your social media and LinkedIn audit. Check your privacy settings. Number two, if you are worried about information for trading and stuff like that, do an information source verification. A lot of tools out there, Bloomberg, Edgar, there's a lot of tools out there, right? Verify your data before you make an action or make a decision on that news. I would say that's number three. And then, of course, if you go to like logical stuff, that's number four. Right? So create a transaction fortress around you, right? If you've got a black card with no limits, right? Be careful of where you swipe it, right? Don't use it all over the place. And then if that gets out of the way, if criminals get into that, that's going to be a problem. So look at your withdrawal limits, look at your geographical restrictions, right? You can instruct the bank, right? Um, look at if there is a possible for business banking, if there's a need for wire transfer delays, right? And separate, divide and conquer, right? Have certain accounts or certain things for certain purposes. This prevents damage. It doesn't prevent an attack. It only prevents damage. Number four, right? Um, and then of course, the last one is I would say sort of like have a truth filter in front of you, right? Um, there are a lot of tools now that use AI. Now, all these things I'm telling you now all use AI, right? For example, Ground News. Again, I'm not endorsing them. Ground News is something anyone can buy, like 20, $30, right? Um, it will detect any manipulation and biasness to any story. It will detect if the same guy is shown as a hero here, but a criminal there, right? So a lot of people can use that to verify a lot of things, right? And then I would say, I think everybody knows Snoop and Fact Chat. So those are old tools. They also have AI now. So in some, I would say these are the sort of five things that you can use. And if you have any doubt, if you got an email or a document, is this AI? You've got things like GPT-0, right? They have a lot of deepfake detection extensions on browsers that anybody can use. It doesn't require a large license to use. And you can use it to detect if there is suspicion, if this is AI generated or not. That's 5 simple things.
Then what about things like your your EPF, right? EPF now is also all digital, right? How secure are those guys?
So a lot of them actually require a physical activity at some point, right? You need to physically go in. So I would say if it involves my life savings, right, make it physical. I would have a comfort if there is an element of physical interaction in that process, right? You can initiate it online, but someone still has to physically go in with your my card or whatever and go in and plug it in and thumbprint and validate. So as long as that physical check and balance is there, you're fine. However, times are changing. So we will eventually get all digital all the time. Then it's a problem. If it's something completely digital, yes, it has happened in many other countries before where people just get wiped off with everything, right? Because you get breached and you go in and everything is just wiped off. Today, a lot of people, their bank balance, their e-wallets, and their cryptos. These are the 3 things that criminals are targeting on people's accounts, as well as, of course, recently, there's also stockbroking accounts where those were breached as well. So today, criminals are targeting that mainly because that's a quick win for them.
Wow, gosh, what the hell, man? Um, how common is it here, Krishna?
I think it's getting common. It is getting quite prevalent. It is getting more common because at the end of the day, it also boils down to our awareness. Right? I'll give you an example. In the past, right, assuming I'm a victim, I'm say I'm the user and cool, you're a hacker, right? In the past, what happens is, let's just say I'm a Britney fan, Britney Spears fan. So I would say Britney, and the year that I am born is, let's say, 75, for example, right? So I would say Britney 75, right? And in order for criminals like that, they need to do manual profiling on me, right? And then guess. It's a guesswork, a lot of guesswork. And then you write some scripts to automate that stuff. Today, it's easy. There are so many sites where I have my accounts and people have their accounts, and those sites could be breached. So what the criminals do is, first thing they do is they will crawl my name across all the data breach. They look for pattern. So say, for example, this person is using Britney, and then the year that he created the password or the year he was born. So, for example, if he was born in the year 85, then it's Britney 85. And then it adds a random special character at the end. The AI picks the pattern, automatically generates possible passwords and automatically tries. So it's also, at the end of the day, if you look at that situation, do we blame AI or do we blame us? It's also our awareness that we need to change as well. But yes, it is prevalent, especially Malaysia. Being in APAC, we are quite digitally savvy. There's a lot of e-wallets, a lot of cashless payments. So it is a growing concern here.
Wow, gosh, it is okay. So then the thing is, this is the now, right? This is the current situation in the land, right? What happens in 1, 3, 5 years time when you got these agents crawling the internet? You've got AI, which is, I don't know, IQ 6,000 or whatever, right? And humans evolve very slowly. So if you're 100 IQ, you're gonna be 100 IQ, right? Or getting worse as time goes by. What happens then?
Good question. So before that, maybe I'll take a step back and tell you the evolution, right? I did speak about human in the loop, on the loop, out of the loop, right? We are somewhere in between that, in the loop and on the loop. But overall, AI, we are now in what we call as, I mean, the first level of evolution is, we call it as ANI, artificial narrow intelligence, right? Where it's good at something specific, right? Do this research, write this report, write an email. So it's doing that. Then comes artificial general intelligence, which is where um, this is human intelligence and this is AI intelligence, right? It's almost on par. Then comes artificial super intelligence. This is human intelligence. This is AI. The AI is way much more smarter than anything that a human can think of. We are right now somewhere in between A and I, the narrow intelligence, and slowly moving towards AGI, general intelligence, right? With GPT-5 and things like that, we're slowly coming up to that AGI. But in about 3 years' time, we might hit ASI and we'll be completely out of the loop. In that situation, organizations, banks, stockbroking firms have to do way much more than what they're doing right now to protect us. Because literally, it's autopilot. Attackers and attacks will be on autopilot, literally. And they will be able to chain or connect multiple attacks together and do it at lightning speed. Right? Today, the stumbling block there is still the human. So we're a little bit safe because you still need the human to do it, right? A criminal can only hack that many victims at a time, but a software doesn't have that limitations. 3 years from now, if we don't do something drastic, we will be in quite a big mess. Plus, there's this quantum thing, right? So with this quantum, there's also another pandemic, I would say, right? Pandemic in the criminal world. They have a strategy. They call it HNDL. Harvest now, decrypt later. So they're actually having long-term strategy thinking. So they're basically stealing anything that is encrypted, fully encrypted, no way of decrypting. Today, they just collect. They're just collecting for the winter because winter's coming. And then when the day the quantum computer is available, they're going to use that to crack everything.
Well, Krishna, you just made a mess of my Wednesday and my Thursday. I mean, the last time we spoke at the SC conference a couple of years ago, I was really so concerned, and that was then. Imagine what it's like now. Um, so what? Okay, so if you're like a really paranoid guy, right? Why don't you just hold cash? Just hold cash and diamonds or whatever, gold. Convert all your EPF into a US dollar or something, right?
You know, there are people out there that are doing that. Right. In many countries, the ultra rich is slowly starting to do that. They're like, you know what? I'm going to convert my assets, right, into gold, physical gold or diamonds or something else, right? So that in case I get hacked and get wiped out, I've got physical assets to rely on. I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket. So there are a lot of people that are considering that strategy and are already doing it. Nothing is stopping from doing it. But the general public like us, I think that the challenge is the trend, right? If every shop that you go eventually doesn't want to accept cash, right? Just says scan here to pay. Then if you walk around with stacks of cash, you're going to find it difficult to spend. I think that's the only downside. But otherwise, a lot of people are considering that.
What about you yourself? How are you protecting yourself?
Well, so first thing, the 5 steps that I told you, I do it myself, Otto. Right? So I follow that same 5 steps. I have, like I said, the hardware token. Right? I use a combination of software and hardware. Right? And AI protection tools. And when it comes to putting my eggs, I don't put them in one basket. So I split. So right down to cards. Right? I have cards for special reasons, right? And I give specific instruction. If this card is for, let's say, well, before I got my EV, it was for petrol, right? So if I said this is only for petrol, if it is not anything other than a petrol station, don't approve it, right? So those are some strategies that you can use, right? Divide and conquer. If it comes to your cards or your wallet, I think the other thing is that sometimes we get carried away with having. I mean, we don't need so many wallets, digital wallets in that sense, right? Use one wallet that you think you can and that will reduce the risk exposure, right? But do not put all your eggs in one basket. Don't put all your life savings on that wallet, right? The wallet is a wallet, right? It's basically for your everyday expenditure, right? So you put in some money in there to, buy coffee or whatever to scan, right? And don't go and put, the huge chunk of your don't clear an FD and put it in there. That's going to be a problem. So a lot of the people that suffer with fraud, I realized they ended up putting all their eggs in one basket, which is a concern, right? And I would say um, have a mix, right? So now, I mean, I'm still one of those guys that I feel uncomfortable if I don't have physical cash in my wallet walking out, even though I've got the cards and the Google Pay, Samsung Pay, whatever, Apple Pay. But I think that is a blessing in disguise for all of us, seeing how things are going to happen in the future.
Good God. Krishna, thanks for scaring the hell out of me, man. But it's also important to realize all these things.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, the next time we chat, hopefully things are better for us, but I fear maybe not, because the way they're innovating is so much faster, than human behavior, human intelligence. Habits, right? Habits. Yeah.
it's true. See, I'm sure we've heard of this whole, TFO in Hong Kong falling victim to a deep fake scam, right? Where, someone pretended to be the boss and then, instructed her to transfer money on Zoom. We've heard of that, right? And everyone knows about it. You also heard something similar happening in Malaysia with a large bank, something happening in UK. But if you look at that incident and you look at what's happening right now, that's child's play. A recent incident happened where in Hong Kong, the whole team showed up on Zoom. Every single one of them, except herself, is fake. So her boss, her colleagues, everybody on that Zoom call is deep fake. Only she was the only original one. And now imagine one says, make sure you do the transfer. Yeah, please, what are you waiting for? Yeah, I think we should do the transfer. Come on, Jenny, go ahead and do it. There is no doubt you're going to do it. And she did it. Now, it was quite a big amount. And then realized that everything was deepfake. So
It's not real case, Krishna.
that's a real case in Hong Kong. If I am not mistaken, it was a few hundred million Hong Kong dollars. So it's around, if I'm not mistaken, in USD, it was probably 25 or $50 million.
In these cases, are they reported or they just fly under
Reported.
the radar?
Yeah,
Reported, huh?
Yeah, investigated. And the reason is someone asked me how did the criminals innovate so fast, right? Because the criminals are using something called a GAN, right? A generative adversarial network, right? And the GANs are also improving, right? We've got basic GANs, DC GANs, SAG GANs. It's improving, right? So it's literally like if I'm a art forgery guy, right? I forge art, right? So if I'm forging art, right, and you're an art museum curator, right, and then we keep pitching each other. I create a fake, and you see whether you can detect, right? If you can, you would rate me, right, 1 and 0, right? One is fake, one is real. If you flag it as fake, I will improve and keep on pitching each other like that until we get better and better and better and better.
Oh shit, man! Oh my God. Well, no more questions, Your Honor. I just hope that the AI, builders also build on the protection side.
They do. They do. I think there is a lot of talk around this, and there's a lot of concern as well. The need for um, uh, artificial intelligence guardrails, right? Controls, assurance, transparency, of course, right? So there is a lot of control. I mean, this has immense power. So there's also a lot of discussion about how do we make sure that this does not get abused and misused. So it's there. But again, just because we say guns are illegal, criminals are still going to find a way to get it. So that's the problem.
Yeah. Okay. Well, on that note, brother, a painful but necessary conversation, I think, and scary knowledge, but essential knowledge.
It
So
is. Yes, agreed.
yeah, prepared is of course better than not prepared, lah. You know.
Better than not prepared, right? It's always
Yeah.
better to be safe. And I think for now, for general public, I think awareness is key, right? Educate yourself on AI, no matter what age group you are in, right? And I recently had a chat with someone. Someone told me that he was not very old. He was only like 50 plus. He said, "You know what? I thought I would never see Beyond 2000 and RoboCop come to life before I die. But I guess I was wrong because you know what? It's here. It's already here. So technology did advance way much faster than we expected. So awareness is key and vigilance.
Okay, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. It was
How
always a
do I
pleasure.
even know that you're not deep fake, lah, Krishna? Right?
That's a
Right?
question.
Right?
That's true. It could be. For all you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Both
And
of
it's
us
so
could be
natural.
fake.
They're very natural. They're very natural now, right?
Very natural. Because they are looking at every single points, right? Like how does a chip move when you smile, everything. So the early days, of course, people will say, you know what, you want to spot a deepfake is easy. Just look at the mouth because the mouth will move weird, right? No matter what the guy says. Then they fix that, the criminal. Then they said, you know what? Look at the expression because the expression is not real. They can't look left, right. The eyes always straight, right? They fix that as well. So this is the GAN, the generative adversarial network that I was telling you about. That's actually advancing at a very rapid stage right now. They're getting
Oh
more.
shit.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Oh shit. Okay, lah, brother. To the extent that we can, we just do what we can, lah. I think.
Yes, agree.
Yeah.
Agree.
Okay, man. Thank you so much, Krishna,
Thank you
and
so much.
safe journey to Geneva, man. See you when you come back.
Thank you. Thank you. See
Take
you
care,
too.
man.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.